Bandele Books presents Last of My Kind, Book 1 of the Lost Tales from Esowon series, written by Antoine Bandele, read for you by VonDexter Montegut II and Nakia Renee. You heard the story of this place, I'm sure, Yemi said, about the heroes of Bajok, Chief Oba, and the great and mighty Uzoma. The Bajoki say they killed the Kishi, forced them back into the rocks. But that wasn't true. They didn't kill me. One. Blackness shrouds everything. That's dark where you can't even see your own hand in front of your face. I'd use my second head. It's got better eyes for the shadows, but Baba tells me it's too dangerous. We've got to hide from the humans. Stay close, Yemi. We're almost there, Baba tells me, his deep voice reverberating against the cold, narrow walls. I reach out my arm so I won't trip and fall, my hands waving stupidly in front of me until it catches against jagged rock, splitting open. Ow! I groan, sucking at my bloodied knuckle. Baba's weight turns to me. I said stay close. We don't got the time. He snatches my hand, squeezing hard. It hurts, but I don't whine about it. Baba hates when I do that, especially since the war started. I hate the war. Can't wait for it to be over once we kill that human Uzoma. Uzoma. Bajok's savior. The great and mighty. The Kishi killer. Baba says Uzoma and his other human warriors always caught our clan off guard. That's why we're running now, as the other of our Kishi warriors fights him and his comrades off. Our home, the Black Rocks, as the humans called it, is our last defense. We'll see how strong Uzoma is in a straight-up fight. No human has a chance within the confusing collection of cliffs and crags. And within the stone towers lies our secret cave homes with their endless mazes. I'm a Kishi, and I can barely see and hear myself, tripping over rocks and crevices like some cub. Not the most intimidating sights for the humans. Can't I use the hyena for a little while? I ask. I don't have to use the eyes, just the nose. No, you keep it hidden like I said. It's so hard hiding it. And how am I supposed to fight without... We aren't fighting. I stop walking, but Baba pulls me like I'm no bigger than a child. I keep telling him I'm not one, but he never wants to hear it. 4 more years and I'll be a man grown. What does he mean we're not going to fight? Does he think I'm not strong enough? That my powers have not yet fully matured? I can fight good, Baba. Those humans are weak. He ignores me, just keeps on walking like I didn't say a word. I'll show him who's weak. If the humans catch up, I'll rip the first one's head off. He'll see. There's a snarl at the back of my head. My locks part, brushing against my ears as a snout sniffs the chilled air. My hyena, my second head, must want to know what all the fuss is about. As its snout presses into the cool air, I can smell what he smells. A faint stink of human sweat lingers at the mouth of the cave. It seems like one of the humans is stupid enough to chase us through the dark caves. That's a mistake. The humans might be safe out in the open with their spears and their arrows, but here, in the tight web of boulders and stones, they're at a disadvantage. This one must be keen to die. My second face stirs, blinking black eyes. Now I see what my hyena sees. The cave slews in zigs and zags, its walls like wax crawling down a candlestick. I sense the humans approach. It's like the feeling you get when you know someone is watching you, or when you know someone is lying. The knowing is the best way I can describe it, though Baba says it's our Abara at work. As we turn down a corridor, pocketed with lights from above, I push my knowing back down the cavern, but I don't sense what I expect. Whoever is following us in the cave has no issue traversing the uneven paths. They're sure-footed and gaining fast, and I sense no fear from them. No, worse than that, I sense only complete confidence. Only one warrior can be so bold. Baba, there's a human. Baba turns quicker than I've ever seen him move. Before I can even blink at his motion through the sliver of light, I'm struck across the face, flying through the air, my body about to crash into the cave wall. I call on my second body, transforming half of it into the strong hide of a hyena. My back fills with thick, spotted fur, its muscles growing larger, as strong as a beast's. It takes most of the blunt punishment as I smack against cold stone, though the edges of my human ribs bruise in the process. As I come down, my animal instinct takes over, landing on all fours as a good Kishi should. My human head cracks back, revealing the full snout of a growling hyena. Chest convulsing, I look for the one who attacked us, but there's no one in the cavernous room but me and Baba. It takes me another second to realize it was my father who knocked me back. I turn my hyena snout to the still air and try to sniff out the one who pursued us, but the scent is gone. Was I wrong to think we were being chased? Were my nerves getting the better of me? My hyena tells me we still aren't safe, but he's been wrong so many times before in this war. For now, I tell him to hush. Before I can catch a breath or relax my arched back, Baba pounces on me in his Kishi form, a dark mass of fur and fangs. I turn on my spine, showing him my human side, a sign of submission. What did I tell you? His human face grunts from behind his animal head. His hyena breath is hot against my face. You said to hide, but...
No buts. You will die if you do not hide.
I've never seen his hyena eyes so serious before. Almost human. But I don't understand. Uzoma might have been on our tail. Whether I was wrong or not, how would hiding my hyena be any help? I have enough sense not to talk back again, though. His fangs are bigger than my fingers. So I nod, relaxing my tense muscles.
Good,
Baba says, retracting his hyena maw from my neck.
Now hide your face like I told you to.
I hate when I have to hide my head. It's wrong. Like a part of me is cut off. I do as he says, but not without frowning first.
Breathe deep,
he tells me, as I struggle to concentrate. The hyena doesn't want to go back inside. I don't blame him. Scrunching up my brow, I force him down like the nasty vegetables the elders make us eat. He crunches into my skull, biting at my locks as though that'll save him. I try to reassure him, tell him in my mind that he'll come back out when the time is right. He doesn't believe me.
Settle down, son, settle down.
Baba touches my arm, filling me with a mystical warmth, like nothing in the world could go wrong. My hyena head feels it too as he's lulled into my human head. It's one of the abilities all Kishi have. The talent, the Abara, to soothe another's emotions. You control the hyena. He does not control you. Baba lifts his hand from my arm, and the pleasant sensation goes away, and with it, my control over the hyena. My head snaps from side to side again of its own accord, thrashing against sharp rock that brings fresh cuts to my brow and cheeks. The hyena thinks I'm weak. It's time that he learns I'm not. I bite down on my tongue. Pain always helps me focus. My flailing passes into shaking, then into a mild shiver as I tame my second head. Another moment, and I have my hyena back under my command, and back inside my head. Baba places both hands on my shoulders.
Don't worry, I sensed him too, but I left a few surprises for him. It'll take time before he finds us here.
So I wasn't wrong. Uzoma was chasing us. Then why was Baba being so calm about everything? My eyes dart from left to right, trying to put everything together in my head. There has to be a reason we are hiding back here. But what? Baba watches me with a bright expression. Through the shadows, it looks like he's smiling, but that has to be my imagination. I haven't seen him smile since this all started. Unlike most Kishi, Baba's head is shaved bare. The rest of us have to use long hair or head wraps to cover our hyenas. The elders said he's the only one who can hide his. If they weren't killed by the humans all those moons ago, they would know I was the second. Baba says hiding our heads should be something all Kishi should know how to do. We do it all the time with the fur on our backs. It's just a matter of extending that mystical veil to our heads. It's easy for him to say. He's the strongest Kishi in our clan. Learning to hide my own hyena has been a lifelong challenge I've yet to achieve.
Listen to me careful,
Baba says.
This isn't practice anymore. What I tell you to do, you do. Understood?
I dip my head low. Yes, Baba. He points behind me, deep into the cave. I didn't even see it at first. A set of rocks look as though they've fallen into each other, and at the bottom there's a small gap. A perfect fit for someone like me. I know what Baba wants me to do, but I don't want to do it. I shake my head hard, locks whipping across my face in a dance of protest. Baba doesn't care. Without a word, he points his large finger into the little gap. Jaw clenched, eyes narrowed, and pride wounded, I get on my hands and feet and crawl into the white crevice. I must be putting on a mean face because Baba is chuckling like he always does when I do. It's the first time in weeks I've heard his laugh. That familiar blend of a human jape and a hyena's cackle.
If we get out of this, remind me to teach you how to look tough,
he says. I don't give him the satisfaction of a response, scrunching my face into a scowl. He keeps to laughing.
Don't hold to that hate, Yemi,
he says, finally ending his last chuckle.
It's good fuel, but it burns hot and quick like a fire not tended to correctly.
I frown, digging farther into the hiding place. If he wants me in here, I'll do it right and proper. Baba sticks his hand into the hole and flicks me on the forehead.
What's our greatest strength as Kishi?
I perk up. Our hides when we turn. Not even Ugara's spear can pierce it. Baba puts his head down and sighs.
No, son.
It's our gift, our abara, to touch other states of mind and to hide our own. I roll my eyes like always. I'll take a giant maul over thoughts and feelings any day.
Tell me, what am I feeling right now?
Baba asks. I repress a groan. I never know what his mood is. He's too good. But when I reach out to sense what's inside him, I'm met with a warm sensation, like when the sun hits the back of your neck real nice. I chew on the word before I say, joy. Baba purses his lips like he does when he gets to thinking.
I suppose that's right.
How can you be happy? We lost. Everyone's dead. Elder Lange, Elder Fuma, Kinsasha, Bundu.
But you're still alive.
He flicks me on the forehead again.
That's what matters.
I go quiet, thinking hard on what he says.
Promise me you'll stay in here no matter what happens,
Baba says. I don't like his tone, so I say, even if you need help?
Especially if I need help. Understood?
Yes, Baba. I keep my fingers crossed behind my back. I'm no craven. If my father needs an extra maw, I sure as hell will help him, instead of hiding away like a grass mouse. I love you, Yemi, Baba says. I don't respond. Though I can count on one hand the number of times he's said the words, I still don't like it when he does. I'm supposed to be quiet, I finally say. He gives me a dark grin.
That you are.
Baba lifts to his full height, his head nearly brushing against the top of the cavern. The farther he moves from my hiding spot, the less I can see his figure. There's a hole near the top where the sun shines through, but I can only see when he passes it. Looks like he's smelling the wall for something. I have half a mind to do some sniffing myself, but I keep my hyena head hidden. After he's done nosing around the cave, he sits with his knees to the ground, hands on his thighs, and palms facing up. I can't see good, but it looks like his stomach is twisting into itself as he breathes deep. Then he lets out an exhale and his stomach goes out like a round hill. He does this for what feels like forever. After a few moments, I imitate his strange exercise, just to see if it'll put a stop to my nerves. It doesn't. When I smelled the cave before, it seemed like Uzoma, or whoever was behind us, was close. Perhaps the traps Baba said he laid did slow them down after all. Maybe they even killed the human who gave chase. I start to breathe a little easier, and then my hopes are dashed. At the edge of the cave, just past where Baba sits, Uzoma, the human savior, is standing tall. I can barely make him out, though. A sliver of light from the cave's hole shines across his short hair, one of his golden eyes, and down his broad chin. I've only seen him once, when our pack was driven from the plains. From afar, he looked large, but now, only a few paces from where I hide, he looks like a giant.
So, you figured out the breathing techniques of the Junga then?
Uzoma asks, his voice baritone, mild instead of intimidating, as I expect.
No, the Daji people.
Baba corrects him. Uzoma sucks his teeth.
I never got that far north. Glad to see it's working for you. I can't even see the impression lines on your head. How did you do it?
You didn't come here for a lesson in meditation.
Right you are.
Uzoma outstretches his hand. The light glints off the tip of his short half-spear. Baba stands up in one fluid motion, nearly matching Uzoma's height, but missing by a finger's length. My heart smacks into my chest so fast I can feel it in my throat. Baba's the strongest man I've ever known, the strongest Kishi among our pack. There isn't another of us who can challenge my father. And besides, what could a single human do, even one as great and mighty as Uzoma? Cracking his neck back, Baba transforms into his Kishi form. His human legs twist back into hind legs, and his hands contort into paws. His bare back is no more, now covered in a coat of black with ash-brown spots, and the back of his head is no longer smooth skin but the face of a hyena. Uzoma's in real trouble now.
You're home. Your move.
Uzoma nods, I think. Baba pounces for Uzoma, and I lose all sense of the fight. The room fills with the grunts and groans of a merciless scrap. Sometimes Uzoma's spear catches light. A sigh of relief parts my lips every time I see it's free of my father's blood. Thuds come next, deep impacts against skin and cave walls. Each blow pounds against my skin as though I'm in the fight myself, competing with the beating of my heart. I can only hope it's Baba that's doling out the damage. It takes everything I have to hold still, but my body wants to leap out, to join the fight. A shriek pierces the noise of grunts and groans. A human or hyena, I can't tell. It sounds like, I hope, Baba pinning Uzoma to the ground. Perhaps he's bit his leg down, maybe an arm. I squint, trying my best to see in the dark, but I can only make out the impressions of fur. Does that mean Baba is on top finishing Uzoma off? The spear crosses the cave's light again, stabbing down. It lands, making contact with skin, but it does nothing. Uzoma, you fool. Nothing can break a Kishi's hide. The stabbing slows as life drains from its strikes. I'm breathless, adrenaline pumping through my veins. Was that my hyena head shifting through my hair? The slashes halt. There's no more movement, no more sounds, except for a trickle of dripping water farther down the cave. Baba did it. He killed the great and mighty Uzoma, and it only took a couple moments. I'm about to lift myself up, but I forget I'm pinned by the tight walls. I stop trying to free myself when I see a figure lift itself into the light. The sight of it keeps me locked in place. The figure wasn't Baba. It was Uzoma. But I saw Uzoma, stabbing with his spear. He was trying to kill my father when he was already down. My head throbs as I try to figure out what happened. Uzoma drops to his knee, The sound of metal scraping against rock rings out as he retrieves what can only be his short spear. When he rises again, I catch sight of the back of his head. It's not at all what I'm expecting. It's not at all what it should be. Horror takes me whole, empties me out with naked fear. Uzoma is a Kishi. It doesn't make sense. He was the one who followed us through the cave. I smelled a human scent, not a Kishi one. I have to remind myself that Uzoma is different. What had he said to Baba about someone named Junga? Or was it Daji? Perhaps they learned how to hide themselves from whoever those people were. Uzoma was not in Kishi form when he pursued us. Even when Baba or I hide our Kishi, the smell of them goes away with it. There was no way I could have known. That still didn't explain why Uzoma was being attacked with his own spear. Unless that meant it wasn't Uzoma who was trying to strike Baba. Somewhere in the fight, my father must have taken control of the spear, but it didn't work. I turn my gaze to Baba at Uzoma's feet. A streak of blood stretches from his body, glistening in the lines of light within the cave. Reaching out with my feelings, I try to call to him, to his Abara. He can't be dead. He just can't. No one has ever defeated him, not even the strongest in our clan. But as the seconds stretch, there's nothing I can do but believe what's in front of my eyes. Baba isn't getting up. I turn dark eyes to Uzoma, and I refuse to let the tears fall. It's all starting to make sense now. No human could do what he had achieved. They said he could take on 2 Kishis at once, even 3. That only makes sense if he had supernatural abilities, which apparently he did. And if he was a Kishi himself, those feats weren't so impressive. It was worse. It meant Uzoma was a traitor. Did the humans know? Were they using him as some sort of pet? No. A human could never control a Kishi. They're too weak. Uzoma must have been playing them, using them as allies against our clans. Where naked fear dominates the pits of my stomach, it's quickly replaced by raw anger. I'll kill Uzoma for what he did to our kind. To my father. Uzoma's hyena head sniffs the cave walls. Can he smell me? Sense me? That's why Baba told me to stay calm. He must have known about Uzoma's true form. How long had he known? And why keep it from me? I slow the heavy breathing in my nose, ceasing its loud exhale against the ground. As brave as I felt a moment ago, the weight of Uzoma's presence and the lethality of that hyena maw locks my heart down to a full stop. Reality shatters my youthful pride. If I don't get a grip, he'll find me and kill me. We Kishi can sense each other's emotions, and in such a small cavern, Uzoma would find me with no issue. I tell myself to be calm like Baba, to hide my emotional sense. But how can I when he's lying there dead? Fear of failure creeps through my body, funneling in the back of my head. If I can't hide myself, I'll have to fight. Uzoma turns his head to my hidden hole. In the glint of light, his fangs glow bright, bared wide, and under their sharp tips, a low growl rumbles. As I let the hyena out from the back of my head, the grunt from Uzoma's own stops, whipping away from the dark hole where I hide. I clench my fists against the cold ground, bracing for the first attack. But it never comes. Is this a trick? It has to be. He's just baiting me to come out, to look for where he's gone. The moment I do, he'll jump on me and snap my neck. Nice try, bastard. I'm not falling for it. Then I hear pounding feet, echoing down the cave walls. 2 locked into each other's smell, neither of us had sensed the approaching humans. Uzoma drops down from the top of the cavern, hiding like I thought he was, just as the first human approaches. Uzoma! A strong voice says. The other footsteps stop. I can't tell how many, possibly 4 or 5 pairs. Too many for me to take on alone, even without Uzoma amongst their ranks.
War Chief Oba,
Uzoma replies, as the fur on the back of his legs aggresses into human skin. A lump wells up in my throat. Only Baba can hide his hyena. At least, that's what the elders told me. How much had he lied? He said he wanted me to pass on the ability.
You should have waited, Uzoma,
the first voice says. I guess this one is Oba. I've seen him before. Wherever Uzoma went, he was not far behind.
We took care of the rest outside the cavern.
How'd you do it? Another man asks. His voice sounds low, as though he's examining my father. A fire kindles in my throat as I imagine human hands rubbing their stink on Baba.
I was lucky,
Uzoma grunts.
That wound at your side could become infected,
Oba says. My mouth parts. So Baba was able to injure Uzoma at least.
Let's get you back to the village. Have the shaman look at you.
What about him? The second voice says. Uzoma shuffles to Baba's body. It's faint, but I can see him drag his spear across what looks like my father's neck. A shriek of iron and sinew cuts against Baba's skin, and the horrific music never seems to stop. Slice, slop, slice, crunch, slice, ooze. Each beat a stab into my heart. It takes everything I have to hold the bile at the back of my throat. Oh, Dulagi Allah. I tried desperately not to be sick as Baba's head finally separates from his shoulders, ending the melodic misery. My hyena head starts to growl. I clamp its snout shut with my hands. Let the rest of him rot, Uzoma decides. It sounds like he's the first to leave, the others following close behind. One warrior says something about Uzoma being the fiercest man he's ever known, but I'm not listening anymore. For the first time, I see the whole of Baba's mangled body, his arms twisted back at slanted angles. I don't move for an hour, too afraid Uzoma's still baiting me. I sense nothing, don't smell anything either, but I'm terrified all the same. Baba would be ashamed to see me now, holding myself tight like a cub that needs its mother. I grew up without a mother. I'm tougher than this, but the tightness in my chest just won't go away. It's not just that I'm alone, it's that I'm completely stripped, bare to the world and its dangers without my father. A few moons ago, nothing could hurt me, certainly not kill me or my clan, and there were few things that scared me. Fear and I were acquaintances before, a healthy relationship, but when the humans attacked us, we soon became fast friends. With Baba dead and gone, I'd say I know fear as intimately as I do my own kin. Now I shudder at every echo through the cave. It must be another hour before I make my first move, shifting rocks under my weight. Each scrape too loud for my ears adds another half hour to my waiting. It feels like a moon cycle has passed when I poke my head into the chilly cavern space. Light no longer shines through the hole near the top, and cool night air clams my skin. I use my hands to look for Baba. His hyena back is the first thing I touch, soft and comforting. My hand runs up his back until I find the gash at his neck, jagged and unsettling. There isn't anything else after that, except a trail of blood on cold rock. I try to move him, but his body is locked up, like it's made of stone. Baba? My voice cracks. I know calling to him is useless. Death is nothing new to me. Baba and I had feasted on many women together. It's our nature. But cracking voices, tears, and sadness were for the weakling humans, not for Kishi. Baba taught me we are above the crippling emotions of sympathy, that we are experts of empathy. The word he used was empath. I never understood the difference between the two until now, in the face of my anguish. How could I be the master of sentiment when I am controlled by them? I tell myself this, but it doesn't quite settle. We are half human after all, and this is different. This is my father, dead, motionless, little more than meat now. No more lessons about our kind, races along the plains, or nightly hunts against villages. Vomit sits at the top of my throat as my second head lets out a low cry. I didn't even notice he was back. his ears curled down against my locks. Patting the back of my head, I don't even try to hide him anymore. My body cracks and contorts, my back twisting to the ground, and my belly to the top of the cave, fully changed into Kishi form. My hyena nuzzles the fur on Baba's back, then bites at it, as though playing. It dawns on me that he doesn't realize Baba is gone. In the past, before the war, Father's own hyena always liked to play when he let it out. If only we could go back to that time, before the humans uncovered us. Something wet drips down my cheek and into my hyena's maw. When I realize it's a tear, I pinch my cheeks into my eyes hard, forcing the rest to stay put, though they do their best to crest my eyelids. My hyena whimpers softly, still nuzzling. Soon, his cries turn to soft howls that echo down the long cavern. It's a faint growl, one that translates to, "Wake up." But it still makes me nervous. What if one of the humans is standing guard outside? I slam my head into the hard stone, hyena head first. "He's gone," I tell it, short and harsh. "He's gone." But my hyena keeps biting at Baba's paws, trying to force him to play. Can't he see that Father doesn't even have a head anymore? Doesn't he understand? In light of his weakness, I find strength. One of us has to act like the Kishi we are. We know who did this. We know what we have to do. Two. I push myself to my feet. Though my knees are shaky, from fear or soreness I can't tell. Bucking up, I rip back control of my Kishi form, breathing in new air. Instantly, all of my senses heighten. Primary among them is the smell of rain, approaching from outside. The knowing within me says the sun will soon rise. On all fours, I bound against rock and stone until I reached the mouth of the cave, where the hard ground turns to soft earth. At the cave's edge, there's trails of blood leading to a set of headless bodies. Baba's men, the last of our clan. I can only hope they took some of the humans down with them. I don't stop to count the dead as I cross the rocky threshold, letting the howling wind against my ears blow away all fear. You'll never catch me, Uzoma. But deep down I know better. If Uzoma wanted to give chase, he'd catch up to me with ease, bite down around my neck, and rip my head clean from my shoulders. Each thought of the great and mighty sends a shiver down my spine. Blurs of gray and black fly by as a terrible thought shoots through my whole body. Before Baba and the others found the cave, we hadn't seen any other Kishi for days as we were driven back deeper and deeper into the black rocks. Now that Father's gone, am I the last of my clan? The weight of the thought doesn't hit me as I thought it would. The fear of being mauled at any moment helped with that, I guess. Which is good. Right now, I just need to survive. I sink my paws deeper into the earth, driving the worry even further back. I run until there are no more craggy passages to run through, until the stretch of rock walls opens to the cold and misty plain. I turn around to survey what was once our home. The humans had come to fear the collection of towering black rocks, like giant stubby fingers crawling out of the earth to bring it back down. Now it was no more than a hollow piece of land, a broken mountain scarred by filthy humans. My hyena howls, his voice carrying across the massive plains. I use his eyes to see an expanse of brown and green ahead of us, bruise-colored skies calling in the rainy season. Had the fighting really lasted throughout the harvest? I think I can make out a pair of giraffe heads on the horizon as they pick at the trees. With nowhere to go, I turn my nose up in the morning air. With a few sniffs, I catch a familiar scent to the east, where the sun crests the horizon. I follow it, keeping to the high brush to avoid the eyes of other predators, animal and human alike. The dawn casts long shadows on the plains. When the clouds are gray, that's when the lions and other hyenas do most of their hunting. Or so Baba always said. I think back to Uzoma. How would I ever catch him off guard? The humans, and that giant mud wall protecting Bajok, always surround him. I definitely can't do it while parched or with an empty stomach. As the sun rises behind a sheet of gray, I find myself smacking my lips. My mouth is as dry as desert sands. There has to be a watering hole close. Another hour in this direction, and I would be well into the territory of the Gwella people. If I remember correctly, there should be a place to quench my thirst nearby. The scent I've caught is in the same direction anyway. It's midday when I find the watering hole, and with it, a trio of bare-chested boys. Each has long hair, locks like mine, and judging by the length, they're all different ages. The boy with hair down his back, the oldest, holds what looks like nuts in his hand, which the boy with the shortest hair picks at, eating them ravenously as though they're the only thing he's had in ages. The third boy, with hair draped just past his shoulders and a double chin hanging beneath his mouth, keeps watch. He's not doing a very good job. I'm able to sneak up on them. I rise from the bush, introducing myself with open palms. My movements must have been too sudden, because the fat one's first reaction is to turn tail and run. In an instant, he's changed into full Kishi form, galloping atop the water like it's as solid as sand. So they're Kishi too. I'm not alone after all. The other boys turn. The oldest sucks his teeth, then snaps his fingers at the other.
Pemba! It's nothing but a boy! Gets back over here!
The one called Pemba turns mid-lake, sniffing with his hyena snout. Some lookout he is, the youngest one says through a mouthful of cashews.
You should know better,
Pemba shouts back in what sounds like a Gwella accent.
If someone runs, you don't question it. You just get to going too.
It was a fair point, were he talking about gazelle and zebra. Not Kishi. The oldest boy looks me up and down.
You and Kosi's son, ain't you?
He dusts nut shavings from his hands, standing at his full height. I glance down at the boy's posture. Baba always said to watch for the enemy's legs. It's often the first tell in a fight. Without thinking, I'm already leaning one foot back, ready for an attack. My face must be fixed with a mean stare, as the boy flashes an exaggerated smile of ivory white.
Relax, brother, he intones. We're all friends here. Named Sanjay.
He holds open hands at his side, as I had, the gesture of the Bajoki people, which means he doesn't have a dagger to stick me with, at least. I swallow hard before saying, I'm called Yemi. The other boys introduce themselves. The youngest is the kid brother of Sanjay. His name is Kisama. When the big one called Pemba returns, shaking water from his hyena coat, he introduces himself with a lumpy hug.
I'm a hugger.
He wraps me closer in his wet embrace.
Good to see we ain't the only ones alive.
The boy is all smiles, his mouth and his chins. After he lets me go, I dunk my hand into the water and shove it down my dry throat. The water is as cold as ice, frozen by the cool air. The rainy season is on us all right, but I drink it down all the same. It tastes like iron, though. I nearly spit it out when I realize dry blood covers my hand. Baba's blood.
All right. Can we go already?
Kisama asks, nose turned to the gray sky.
We need to get out of here. Them humans can't be far behind.
No, they're not following us, I say as I get done drinking. I've been walking for hours and I haven't seen them. Pemba shakes his head.
That's how it's always be, ain't it? They always finding us when we don't expect it.
Trust me, I say, washing my hands of the blood. They think they've won. A brief silence cuts through the group, the obvious question hanging in the air until...
They think?
Sanjay mutters with disbelief, crossing his arms.
How'd you figure that? I mean, you're alone. We're alone. We ain't seen nobody from our clan in days.
Pemba lifts a hand to his mouth.
Oh, shit. They done killed Nkosi too, didn't they?
I bend low to wash the red from my palms. My silence is answer enough. Kisama tugs at his brother's loincloth.
Come on, Sanjay. We've got to get out of here. You heading to the jungle too?
Sanjay asks after I get done washing. I shake my head.
Just getting away from the village to rest up.
But I'm going back. Got to find a way to kill Uzoma. A hush whistles against the cool breeze.
It doesn't last long. A burst of shrill laughter, only uttered from a mix of human and hyena, rings across the plain. All the boys grab at their sides and guffaws. Sanjay holds himself up on his knees. Kisama follows suit, imitating his older brother. Pimba embraces his middle, as though to hold in his chuckles at the stomach. I'm the only one not laughing. I don't even crack a smile, my mouth a thin line. Pimba catches my expression through his red-faced laughter and stops suddenly. Oh, shit. I think he's serious. He looks to Sanjay with concern. My thin line turns to a full scowl. Sanjay stops his laughing too, throwing his locks over his head, his brow etched with a deep crease. Uzoma can't be killed, brother. Our best bet's to move on to the Kunda jungles. No humans go there. And there's more boys like us meeting there, Kisama adds. I still say we ought to run with the hyena in the far plains, Pimba says. We'd be gods to them. Sanjay sighs, pinching the bridge of his nose. Somehow it seems Pimba has made this request several times before. They'd never accept half-breeds. They'd more as like to attack us than follow us. The jungles are better, Kisama echoes. I can't believe the words coming from their mouths. And I thought I was the coward. These boys want to run away like pride means nothing to them. I suck my teeth and flick my hand in the air with disgust. Turning on my heel, I head back into the brush. I've had my fill of water. But Sanjay grabs me by my arm. His grip is stronger than I expected. Where are you going? He asks. Back to Bajok. The fight isn't over. I rip my hand from his grip but fall flat on my ass. Sanjay and the others stand over me, all humor gone from their faces. Sanjay shakes his head solemnly. It's over for us. Well, it ain't over for me. I spit into the dirt. Pimba gulps, glancing back at the other boys before saying, You ain't told us about your father. What happened? Uzoma did him in too, didn't he? There's a knot in my throat, blocking me from speaking. Flashes of Baba's fight spring to mind. His lifeless body under my hand throbs to my touch. He ain't got to say nothing, Sanjay says darkly. Nkosi's dead, just like everyone else stupid enough to fight. So the boys are all alone like me. My eyes turn to slits. How could you not want payback? Your fathers would be ashamed. Let's go back into the village tonight and kill the one responsible. It's not that easy, Sanjay says. I've seen Uzoma fight, more times than I would have liked to. He ain't like them other humans. We wouldn't even last a minute. Does Sanjay know who Uzoma truly is? No, he couldn't. He said, like other humans. Should I tell them? If I did, Pimba would probably start running again. And Kisama doesn't look any more ready for a fight. The little boy still has baby fat in his cheeks. No, I won't tell them. If they think Uzoma is just a human, then all the better. But if shaming them wouldn't work, maybe simple logic would. Going back to the village alone would be suicide for me. But with 3 other Kishis at my side and a good plan, something might just work. There's more of us than there are of him, I finally say. Pimba shrugs. So what? Let me finish. I stand back up. I'm not saying we challenge Uzoma to Ugara's dance or anything like that. You're right, Sanjay, we wouldn't last. But if we walk into the village as children, no one would think twice before we rip out Uzoma's throat in his sleep. Easy. We'd be in and out before anyone knows. We can sense him and he won't be able to sense us. Or at least I hope he won't sense us. He won't sense me, at least. But didn't Baba say something about protective magics in the village? Something about our hyena heads being hidden, repressed by shaman magic. That could work to our favor as well. Like I said, I can make use of 3 more bodies with me. One way or another, I'll see Uzoma dead. But what's about all them gods? Kisama asks with his small voice. I turn to him and put a hand to his shoulder, sending tender waves through him like Baba did for me in the cave. If we're going at night, they won't see us. Humans don't see right in the dark. Neither will we if we can't change, Sanjay reminds me. There's supposed to be some protection on Bajok, right? Damn. I hoped they hadn't known. Pimba nods in agreement. And how are we going to rip his throat when we can't change? It doesn't matter, I say. It might even be better that way. We'll use daggers instead of our teeth. Kisama and Pemba look almost convinced, but Sanjay has a deep frown. It might work, Sanjay, Pemba says. We'll look just like kids, like he says, Kisama adds. If we caught, we can outrun any human. That's if we get out of that village in time, Sanjay says slowly. Right, Kisama says. No problem. We all turn our heads to Sanjay, who's crossing his arms and tapping his foot. Fine, but you're going in front. If I catch a whiff of anything off, I'm sure Pemba will be the first one to run. I smile for the first time. Three. Dark clouds loom high over Bajok as we all hide behind a cut of rocks. I can make out a half-dozen warrior guards atop the village wall, faces lit by torches. There's only 2 at the wooden gate. How are we going to get past all them? Kisama asks with slumped shoulders. I turn to the group, each face betraying fear. Crouched nearest to me, even Sanjay looks uneasy, avoiding my eye contact as I tell them what they have to do. He fixes his attention on the village walls as though Uzoma himself will come bursting out. Pemba brings up the rear, hanging back a few strides. Are you listening to me? I ask them, snapping my finger. The sound echoes off the rock and shakes them from their tense stupor. Sanjay mouths, What's in the gods' names? I ignore him. It was time to get serious. It's easy. We'll use our Kishi forms to climb up the wall. It's tall, but not that tall. I glance over my shoulder once more to measure the height. From the ground up, the walls couldn't be over 20 paces high, 25 at most. So long as we have enough momentum going up, even with the shaman's magic tearing our Kishi forms away, forcing us into our human form once we get to the top, we should get over it safely. I twist back to the boys again. Even in the dark, I can see a pool of sweat coming down around Pemba's eyes. Listen, it'll be fine. Just run as fast as you can up the wall and go for the edge. You'll be forced to change the higher you climb, maybe even as soon as you touch the wall, but just keep going and you'll reach the top. Lots of views and all that, Sanjay says, his voice stilted. It looks like he's fighting back a gulp. I'm going too, obviously, I say. What's about to them gods, though? Pemba takes a step back, eyes drifting up and down the wall as though he's measuring the distance himself. The longer and harder he stares, the more he seems to cower. I look back to the warriors. Any human on watch is prone to mistakes, especially now when they all think the war is over. I had been watching them. The only ones we have to worry about are the guards at the gates. Their gazes never wander from their post. Those must be their elite. Makes sense, having them near the only entryway, the only usual entryway. But the ones perched on the walls are slow in their scan of the outskirts, especially the ones nearest the far right, where the farmlands begin. That's where we'll climb over. We just have to wait until 2 of the guards leave a blind spot. It shouldn't take more than a few seconds to climb, and in the dark, we'll have the advantage, I say. Sounds like you have it all figured out, Sanjay says. You'll be going first, I take it? I whip my head to him. What? Ain't nothing changed. I told you if something feels off, you're the one who's going first. I bite down on my retort. He's right. That was the deal. I only figured he'd want to go first because he's the leader of his small group. That'll be the last time I underestimate his cowardice. Muscles or no, the boy's more craven than a meerkat. Leaders lead. Watch me close, I tell them. We'll only get 1 shot at this. For a moment, I consider the idea of them leaving me. If I scale the wall, and if I make it seem difficult, there's nothing stopping the others from simply abandoning me to fend for myself. If I were as prideless as these cubs, it's what I'd do. Taking a deep breath, I shift to my full Kishi form, paws digging into the earth. Simple then. I've just got to make this look easy. I tilt my hyena head to the wall. Suddenly, the 20 paces up look more like 100. Baba's voice echoes in my head. What had he always said about my fear? If I want to conquer it, I shouldn't sit in the brush and think about it. I have to face it head on. My hyena eyes drift between the guards, waiting for the right moment. The second their attention is drawn away, I bound forward with silent paws, one of the many benefits of being a Kishi. Light feet. I hit the bottom of the wall hard, and as I expected, the protective magics run through my body, fur regressing to skin, hyena snouts retracting into my head. I won't make it the whole way in Kishi form. Halfway up the wall, I twist my body into a half circle, bringing my human front forward. I press the ball of my foot, which had already transformed, into the thick of the mud wall and push up. With both hands, I grab the edge and heave myself over. Flawless. But there's still one issue. The moment the guards turn back, they'll see me standing there on their battlements. And it doesn't help that each section of the inner wall is lit by a torch. Holy shit! Pemba's voice rings out from the rocks. The guards hear him too. What was that? The one on the right says, looking over his parapet and into the dark. My heart thumps against my chest. Either the guards go looking for the others, or they turn around and see me. Neither was a good outcome. At least now they weren't focused on the wall top. I just need a distraction. You heard that too, right? The guard to the left asks. Would just be the wind. The rainy seasons are coming. I look down into the village. More a town, if you ask me. Most of their huts, if you could call them that, are almost as high as their barrier. Looks like I've climbed over the wall near to their market. Below me is a set of barrels and baskets filled with beans, eggs, and millet. Wait, millet! It's your turn to check, says the first guard. The second sighs deep. Instead of making a move down, he says, Who's there? The lazy option. Obviously, he gets no response. The first guard chuckles. Nice try. Get your careless ass down there. Fine. The second guard relents. I twist my head from left to right like a ground squirrel. If the guard goes down there, he'll scare the boys away, leaving me alone. There has to be something I could use. There! Just what I need. A few paces from me, one torch sits alight along the parapet. I quickly pull it from its sconce and throw it into the millet. The fire starts small, but soon lances through the twine of the other baskets. I push my back against the inner wall, away from the blood-orange glow below. The guard's attention is pulled inward. What the hell happened? One of them asks. Too scared to move my head, I can't tell which. If they look even a few paces to one side, they'll find me. Sweat beads on my forehead. If it's from the rising heat or my nerves, gods know. Don't just stand there, one of them calls out. The chief will have our heads. Put it out! Both of the guards jump into the market, trying their best to smother the fire with heavy cloths from one of the market stalls. But the fire is already too strong, reaching baskets full of cow dung. I cover my nose instinctively from the stink of burning shit. This is my chance. I lift my head over the wall, facing the others, and cup my hands around my mouth. Now! Go! But no one comes running from the dark border. So they did leave me. Just like I said they would. A furious heat curdles through my neck and into my head. It may be what I expected, but it still hurts. How am I going to kill Uzoma without help? How could any Kishi? We all tried and we all failed. Maybe it's best if I run away too. The guards would be too busy to see me. No. I have to finish things now or never. Just as I clench my fist in anger, Sanjay pelts from the cuts of dark rocks and comes up the wall just as I had. He slips near the top, but I help him the rest of the way. Way to think on your feet, brother, he says, out of breath. I return his compliment with a regretful nod. Maybe he isn't so gutless. I turn my head back to the rocks just as Kisama starts his run. He makes it 4 paces from the top, missing the edge, but Sanjay and I are there to pull him the rest of the way up. The glow of red-orange dies down within the market. One of the warrior guards seems to have found water in one of the clay pots. The moment they douse the fire, they'll turn their attention back to their post. And to us. We need to work fast. Nervous sweat dews my palms. I wipe it across my loincloth. We need all the leverage we have to pull up Pemba. Each of us looks over the wall once more as Pemba pushes forward. What he lacks in speed he makes up for in strength. His Kishi form more robust than pudgy, as I thought it'd be. But he's barely 3/4 of the way up before he loses momentum. He tries to twist like I did, but it doesn't help. Grab my legs, I tell them without thinking. Rushing forward, I jump over the wall and reach for Pemba's arms, hoping to feel the other's holds around my ankles. My stomach goes empty as freefall takes me. My hands clamp around Pemba's wrist, locking down hard. Just as I feel myself falling, there's a tug at my calves. Thank the gods. The village only represses our forms and not our strength with it. Put those muscles to good use, Sanjay. But Pemba is too heavy. I haven't been holding his wrist for more than a second and he's already slipping. His wrist damper than a freshly caught trout. Pemba, you really need to lay off the second servings of beans, Kisama says from behind, his voice strained. I realize now that I'm being held by two pairs of hands, and they seem to be slipping as well. There isn't much time. The guards will have the fire out soon, and if they catch us like this, it'll just be embarrassing. There's nothing we can do, though. Do we really need Pemba? He'll just slow us down in the end. If I just let him slip, Sanjay and Kisama should be enough for what I have planned. Sorry, Pemba. As I loosen my grip, Sanjay and Kisama seem to find a second wind, pulling me and Pemba up and over the parapet. We all fall with a great thud on the platform, each of us more tired than the last, but it's Pemba's sweat that drenches us the most. No time to rest, Pemba, Sanjay says. We've got to get off this wall. Sanjay pushes him into the market, where the large boy splashes into a pool of beans. We follow suit, one bean splash after the other. Each of us pulls Pemba from the large basket and into a dark corner of the market. Finally, the guards put the fire out. You didn't put the torch into the sconce, right, did you? One of them asks. It wasn't me. Someone's trying to distract us, you fool. We've got to tell the others. We hear their footsteps trail away before lifting our heads again. Pemba lets out the greatest sigh I've ever heard, as though it came straight from the endless bowels of his gut. Thank you, Yemi. Thought I was a goner. Yeah, good lookout. Sanjay agrees. He's eyeing me with a respect I have not seen from him until now. Wasn't really thinking of saving Pemba like that. I just couldn't have him missing his jump was all. I'm not used to being thanked. It always makes me uncomfortable. I never know how to respond, so I don't. We don't have much time. Uzoma's spot is at the village center. We can make it there before they warn the others. Just follow me. I lead them through the stretch of rounded huts, bouncing my weight on the balls of my feet, light and quiet. All but the warrior's guards seem to be asleep, save for those few making the rounds through the alleys of the huts. There's no one to stop us. But just as we round the corner to Uzoma's hut, a woman's voice comes from behind.
You children know better than to be out this late.
My body goes stiffer than stone. Four. We turn to the woman's voice with a start, eyes wide. The woman closest to us, the speaker, I assume, has a long neck, wide nose, and a scarf wrapped around her head. At her side is a shorter woman, carrying a basket of grain on her head. They must have been late coming in from their harvest. Their eyes are kind at first, but once they see our locks, their friendly smiles turn to frowns. The shorter of the two is already taking steps away from us. I lift open palms to my side instinctively, showing them the Bajoki greeting. I can almost hear Sanjay's thoughts in my head, his chide remarks of, I told you so. I don't dare make eye contact with him, though. We can't afford to take our gazes away from the women. I sense stark fear rolling off the other boys, and where the woman's moods were at first amicable, the expressions are swiftly turning hostile. As the short woman opens her mouth to scream, I reach out with my power, Abara rotating my eyes in a hypnotic trance. Whether or not it will work, Dulagi Allah knows. Baba was the one who had bewitched the women we encountered through the years. He never got the chance to train me, but I don't have any other choice. I cut the woman's scream short. It splits into a half shriek. A new wave of panic cycles off the boys. Was her yell loud enough to wake the other villagers? Did I stop her in time? For now, I have her and her friend in my hold. They look like little more than dolls now, placid faces and dead eyes. Now that I've had the chance for a better look at them, they seem to have the same wide noses, though the shorter of the two's neck is thick-set, while the other's is long. Perhaps they're sisters. We were just heading home, I say, letting my Kishi voice take hold. But it's not working right. Granted, the women aren't screaming their heads off as they should be, which is good, but they don't look pleased either. Baba had told me before that my Abara powers wouldn't work well on grown women, not until I'm grown too. The attraction's just not there, he said. But I can't let this ruin our plans. Not when we're so close. We can use them, Sanjay whispers in my ear. Uzoma's hut will be guarded. I turn my head back to the women, straining against their resistance. Baba's voice rings clear in my head.
What's our greatest strength as Kishi?
It's not just about our strong hides, not about our maws. This is what he meant. I hear my own voice like a whisper. It sounds childish now, indignant.
Our hides when we turn. Not even Ugara's spear can pierce it. No, son. It's our gift, our abara, to touch other states of mind and to hide our own.
I push out my abara once more, letting it ensnare them, wrap them in a floral aroma. I might not be a man grown yet, but boys have their own power. Please, sister. Instead of casting off an aura of attraction, I aim for a tone of innocence. Can you help us? The women twitch in their stone-like postures. Deep down they know what I'm doing is unnatural, but they can't resist my call. Their scowls and pointed brows ease into gentler expressions, their eyes softening to a mother's gaze. A short moment passes, and the women drop their baskets to the side, the grain rolling in the dirt. I have them now. Fresh confidence burns through my veins at the familiar rush of power and dominance. I'd normally take a moment to savor the sensation, but I know my limits well enough to know this won't hold for long. The shorter of the two seems particularly strong. We need Uzoma, I tell them. We need his help. Can you take us to him?
Of course, little one.
The taller one tilts her head, though it looks more like she's nodding off, bucking against sleep. The short woman does not respond, neck tensing. I might not be able to force her to speak for me, but I can keep her mouth shut at least. So long as I funnel my focus on the other, we should be fine. I push my abara out again, forcing the women into a hurried pace towards Uzoma's hut. I keep a straight face in front of the others. They're scared enough as it is. I can't let them know how hard this is for me. When we catch sight of Uzoma's large home, guarded by two towering warriors that look more gorilla than human, I direct the women to work their own charm. This kid's amazing, I hear Pemba say from behind. I don't stop to take in the praise, waving a hand to another hut where we can hide as the women walk ahead. The pair trade smiles with the warrior guards, who look them up and down. Even without my influence, the men are already interested. Despite their intrigue, sweat beads on the top of my brow. This will have to be fast. I can't hold out much longer.
Come spend a few minutes by the river with us,
the taller woman says. I try to get the shorter of the two to add another flirtatious remark, but she does not heed me. Instead of smiling or flitting those rosy eyes like women do, she looks like she smelled a bad fart.
What's wrong with her?
One of the guard asks. The taller woman steps in front, ignoring the guard's question.
Uzoma's a big boy. He can handle himself.
She puts a finger on one of the warrior's broad chests. The man removes the woman's finger.
Uzoma would kill us if we left our post.
The tall woman frowns as though discouraged by the man. I push against her resistance, trying to get her to say something nice again, but she won't respond. That's it. I've spent all the abara I can muster. Maybe I could get them to smile, but I can't make them speak for me. I've never used the ability for more than a few minutes, and never with two at once. It's hard enough with just the shorter woman straining against me, let alone the two of them. As my control on them slips, the woman's eyes go from seductive to strained. The shorter of the two clutches her temples.
Something wrong?
The other warrior asks. He grabs her just before she falls. There's nothing I can do as they're freed from my influence. There's an itch on my nose. I rub it, and blood comes away on my fingers. My head spikes with needling pain. We need to run fast. They'll out us the first chance they get.
It's just been a long day,
the shorter woman says. But how? She should have been turning to where we hid, throwing a finger in our direction.
Could you help me get her to the river?
The tall woman's voice is sultry again. But I have nothing to do with it. What is this? My influence was gone. Why is she still playing the role of the coy maiden? I jerk my head to the others. Sanjay's eyes twist within themselves as he holds out a hand. the others mirroring his gesture. I turn back to the women. They walk off with the warriors, clearing our way to Uzoma's hut. Thank you, I say. Sanjay grabs my shoulder, holding it tight beneath his grasp. Ask for our help next time, brother. And it's you I should be thanking. For what? I ask through labored breaths. For reminding me we are beasts to be feared. Sanjay's voice is dark, and I swear I see a fire deep in his eyes. He turns to the others. Let's go kill us a legend. Pemba and Kisama nod, smirks on their faces, their bodies tense for the kill. These are more like the Kishi I'd want to fight alongside with. The kind my father rallied to his side. A loyal and able pack. Did I underestimate their potential? For a moment, I consider reframing the plan, but it's too late. We're here and there's no turning back. If they're worth their weight in salt, they'll come out of this alive. Otherwise, it's survival of the fittest. I turn my head to Uzoma's hut. Now that we're here, I don't feel so bold. My mind keeps pulling itself back to the cave. Maybe it wouldn't be such a bad idea to retreat to the jungles, meet up with the other boys they mentioned. At least for now, at least until we're old enough when we could truly challenge Uzoma with our own army. I shake the thought from my head as soon as it seeps in. If a coward like Sanjay is ready to fight, I should be too. Suddenly, Sanjay speaks up. Kisama, stay out here and keep watch. The little boy frowns deeply. I wonder if that's how I looked when I protested Baba's decision in the cave. I can do it, Sanjay. I want to help. Sanjay puts a gentle hand to his brother's shoulder, but I don't feel his Abara soothing him. He must know his words will be enough. He knows his brother will trust him. You are helping. If them warriors come back, we gonna need a signal. Don't worry, little man. Pemba pats him on the back. I'll get a stab in for you. Pemba pulls out his wooden stake from his loincloth. It'll only take a minute, I add. A lookout is a good idea, and for some reason, I don't want to see the little boy hurt. It takes a moment, but Kasama agrees, crossing his arms and wearing a scowl I know all too well. I turn my attention back to the hut. Uzoma is likely sleeping, but I wonder if he could sense the tricks we were playing on the women. No. If he did, he'd be outside his hut, looking for us already. How strong is a Kishi in sleep? I wonder. Will he wake as soon as we enter his domain? Will our wooden stakes even be strong enough to pierce his skin? The others still do not understand who the great and mighty truly is. Their fearlessness stems from the idea that, after all, Uzoma is only human. If only that were the truth. Perhaps then the fluttering in my stomach would go away. I tried to keep reminding myself that Uzoma is powerless in this village too, but it doesn't help much. I step into the hut, pulling at the straw door that covers the threshold into the home. Inside, it's dark and deep, like the mouth of a cave ready to swallow us whole. I feel the nervous energy from the others, but it's no longer the fear I've felt from them all night. Now, it's the anticipation of the hunt. Get yourself together, Yemi. Even they're ready. Cool air from within brings bumps to my skin. I stifle a shiver as my eyes adjust to the darkened room. It's a simple home, divided into two areas, a small place for a fire and pot, and another for bedding. Flickering embers smolder under the pot, and from its depths spew an awful smell of iron mixed with urine. I don't think it's actually urine, obviously. If I'm placing the smell right, it's a medicinal potion and a strong one at that. The boys smell it too, covering their noses and mouths with their hands. Breathing through my mouth, I turn my attention to the bed, where a lump rises and falls deeply under a set of animal skins. I can't stop my heart from pounding as I pull out my wooden stake. I hear the subtle brush of wood against loincloth from behind. Sanjay must be mirroring my movement. This is it. We will kill Uzoma and avenge Baba and all the others this traitor has killed. My lips part as I lift my stake high above my head. Tension rushes my hand as I pull the animal skins from the lump in one tug, like plucking a thorn from the skin. But underneath is a small woman with full lips and tiny eyes. Who is she? Did we enter the wrong hut? At first, silence stuns the woman, but quickly, her eyes go as wide as the moon's. Before she screams, her eyes drop into a dewy gaze like the woman from before. But I did nothing to influence her. Must have been Sanjay saving my ass again. I turn to the boys and my heart stops. It's not Sanjay who's holding the woman. At the mouth of the hut looms a dark, broad figure, a familiar cackle echoing from the shadow. Before I can shout a warning, the figure grabs the back of Pemba's neck with a crunch. I think I hear the stout boy say, "Get off me," before his neck snaps and he drops limply to the floor. I try to transform, but the village's magic still holds my hyena in its mystical chains. Yet Uzoma, somehow, blocks our path in his full Kishi form. How has he changed when we cannot? Is he truly so powerful to negate the shaman's magic? There's no shortage of surprises with this two-timer, and he has us right where he wants us. There's only one way in and one way out. I've led us straight into a trap. But that's what I wanted, wasn't it? The boys were supposed to act as a distraction. Pemba was always going to be the sacrifice, but I was hoping he'd be more useful than a quick kill. I do my best not to move my eyes to his slumped body in the dirt. Sanjay is the first to spring an attack, stabbing out with his stake. Uzoma bats it away, like the boy had attacked him with a feather, and the stake goes bouncing off the wall. I jump forward, slashing at Uzoma's leg, but before my strike is even halfway to its target, I'm met with the heel of Uzoma's foot to my face. I fly back hard against the wall, with a deafening thud, blood spurting from my mouth. Sanjay is at it again, coming at Uzoma with his fists. The boy has heart, I'll give him that. He even seems to keep up with the older man. How? Not even Baba could match him. It looks as though Uzoma is pulling his punches and his hyena head is slow to bite. Is he toying with us? For an instant, I see Uzoma's snarl twist into a wince. No, he's not playing with us. It's the wound at his side. The one Baba inflicted. The man must be hurting badly. My mind flickers to the urine-smelling potion. He must have still been healing. Maybe we still have a chance. I lift to my feet again, coming in with my stick raised high. Before I can bring the sharp wood down, I'm slapped away once more, straight back into the wall. It and I are becoming fast friends. Sanjay keeps at it, but he isn't doing any damage. Uzoma's mostly grabbing at him, but Sanjay slips out of reach each time. I've never seen a Kishi fight like Uzoma does. Half human and half hyena. At one moment, he's using his hyena maw to snap and bite, and in the next he's transformed using human fists like the fighting men. Was this what Baba had to deal with? An entirely new form of dual Kishi and human fighting? With all that thrown at Sanjay, none of this feels right. Even if the kid was the best young fighter we Kishi had, and I know he isn't, Uzoma's injury shouldn't be hindering him to where he's actually struggling. A jolt from the bed draws my attention. The woman seems to be half flailing against the covers of the skins. That's it. Uzoma's still controlling her, his attention split. And not just that, he's protecting her, fighting defensively. I can use that. I grab my stick again, but this time instead of attacking Uzoma, I go for the woman. Let us go, or I'll kill her! My voice shakes more than I expect. Uzoma smacks Sanjay across the jaw, forcing him into the wall. I can't see the man's face, but I expect his eyes are shooting fire. In an instant, he's on top of me, clutching my neck, hyena paw transformed into human hand. I'm utterly useless, squirming against his hold, kicking and flailing to no avail. I failed. Baba would be ashamed to see me now as I flounder around like a trout out of the water. So I stop. I won't die like this, scared and desperate. Darkness curls around my vision as Uzoma's grip crunches the muscles in my neck. Only another second, and... Run! Sanjay shouts as he throws the hot pot onto Uzoma's wound. The man lets out a howl, dropping me to the ground. Sanjay pulls at my arm and drags me out of the hut. I'm too dizzy to keep pace with him. We have to go back, I mutter to him, but he keeps dragging me away. I don't have the strength to fight him as he tugs me through the night. What happened? Where's Pemba? I hear Kisama's voice, though I can't see him right through my bleary vision. Not now. Sanjay shoots a cold look down at me. Through my spotted vision, I see what looks like tears welling in his eyes. He's doing a good job of holding them in as he spits out a snarl of frustration. We have to run. Five. We never look back as we rush along the Nyoka River. Blood cakes my paws and hind legs. I try to forget that it's Pemba's. It's not lost on me that the blood could have easily been mine, with my mangled body on the floor of Uzoma's hut and the others running away. The moons peek through sheets of black and gray clouds as if they fear the raging storm that finally approaches. Beetle-sized raindrops pound against our backs, leaving welts on delicate human skin, and a terrible wind howls in my ears. At least it's washing away the blood. The faster we run, the more the deluge seems to pour, our paws sinking into pools of mud. With each footfall, we fall deeper into the earth, disrupting our purchase with it. I try my best not to slip as Sanji and Kisama pull ahead. None of us dare to stop until fatigue forces us into the muck, our backs too heavy to carry us any farther. Leagues of farmland surround us, filled with tall green plants I don't know the name of. I see the jaws of hyena everywhere, their fangs stretched across the teeth of the leaves, or their heads jutting out from our imprints left in the mud. It's my mind playing tricks on me, I know, but knowing doesn't help. And the images of hyenas aren't just in the sprouts or the dirt, but in the storm clouds above and the streaks of lightning that flash across the dark sky. They're everywhere. Each wailing gust sounds like a hyena's cackle to my ears. I need to get a grip on myself. No one was chasing us when we ran from the village, and we're impossible to track in this storm. But how could we fail so badly? How had Uzoma known we were coming? None of us were in Kishi form, though we were influencing those women. Was that the giveaway? Or can he sense us no matter what form we take? Even if we could switch to Kishi form, we wouldn't be a challenge for him, injury or not. But there has to be some way to bring him down. A straight attack will never work. He'll always know we're coming. We'll have to play the long game, like wood and marbles with Baba. Though I often won at the beginning of that game, he always came back to beat me in the later rounds.
It's all about positioning,
he would say. No matter how long it takes, I have to find a way. Whether it's a week, a moon, or 5 harvests from now, somehow I need to set him up. Let everyone in the village know who he truly is. And to do that, I have to be one of them. Earn the humans' trust the same way Uzoma did. Did you see what he did to Pemba? Sanjay says, still catching his breath. Snapped his neck like it was nothing. How could they be thinking about Pemba? We needed to figure out a way to get back there and not end up like him. Kisama's cheeks stream with wetness. It looks like rain at first, but then it's obvious that the streaks are tears. Buck up, Kisama, I say, taking on the tone Baba did whenever I cried. You're not a cub anymore. Stop that crying. Sanjay lifts on his elbows. His voice has an edge of warning. Watch who you're talking to, brother. There's no time for this, I snap back. We're at war. Don't you get it? We need to think about how we're going to get back into that village. We just have to be smarter about back to the village? Sanjay snarls. I can't see his face, but his tone tells me it's fixed with disgust and bewilderment. Pemba's dead. Our friend is dead. If my little brother wants to cry, then he should. Kisama buries his face in the mud, hiding his tears. Probably from me. Sanjay rubs his brother's bare back, encouraging the tears. I fight back a grimace at his needless coddling. Were it my father, I'd get a much different response. One that resulted in welts and bruises. Another moment of nursing, and Sanjay turns to me, his voice low and dark. So Uzoma's a Kishi too? Seems that way, I say slowly. The change in the boy's tune has me nervous. For what feels like several minutes, Sanjay is staring at me in the dark, and my chest fills with that sensation we Kishi used to influence others. What is he trying to pry? Does he think he's strong enough to get the truth from me? After a moment, the sensation spills away, but Sanjay keeps to staring. And you knew? He finally asks. I can only guess at the ugly look he's giving me. My first instinct is to lie, but something halts the falsehoods at the tip of my tongue. Sanjay tilts his head to the side as though searching my eyes through the shadows. You set us up. A streak of lightning brightens across his face, and with it, a realization flashes across his eyes suddenly. the honey hue of his irises flaring like a flame. His voice is barely above a whisper. That's your plan this whole time? We can still kill him, I shout defiantly, ignoring his question. We just need to go about it a different way is all. Another streak of lightning dances across the dark clouds, revealing another face of contempt from Sanjay. Kisama stops his crying, lifting his head from the mud to listen to our conversation. My heart beats strong against my chest. The truth would come out one way or the other. You didn't care shit about us, did you? Sanjay's voice sounds almost like a man groan. You don't care that Pemba got slaughtered at all, do you? Each accusation was meant to hit deep, but somehow, it all feels so hollow. Of course I did, I stammer, but the words ring false even to my own ears. I'm glad it was him and not me. That's the truth. I barely knew the boy. Besides, he was the last one in. He should have had our backs. If he would have just done his job right, we wouldn't have been trapped like that and he might still be alive. I didn't know Uzoma could change in the village. So you admit it, Kisama says. His small voice next to his brother's booming one does more to me than anything else. For the briefest of moments, there's something like remorse in my heart. I drive it out straight away. These boys are weak and they want me weak as well. I'm not letting that happen. Sanjay stands tall, a grand silhouette across the lightning-struck sky, reminding me he has height and weight to his advantage. Does he mean to fight me? I start to lift myself from the mud when little Kasama speaks. Come on, Sanjay. His head darts from him to me. If we leave now, we can be on to the jungle in 2 weeks, like Baba said. The other boys might not have gone in yet. No, I'm not done with this one yet. Sanjay takes a step toward me. I stand up quickly, tensing my muscles. Sanjay doesn't have his palms out and open anymore. Listen to me, I say, jabbing a finger with each word. I was wrong to attack tonight. I'll admit that much. But we can still kill him. I want him dead more than anything else. You know that. No more of your words. Sanjay stalks closer. He's just waiting for the right time to pounce. I back away. There has to be a way for him to see reason. Look at our wounds! I throw out my arms to him. We can use them to our advantage. The villagers will think we were the ones attacked by Kishi. What about the women who saw us? Kisama asks. I bite at my lip as Sanjay backs me down into the mud. We can deal with them. We just have to... Sanjay's scowl halts me. There's murder in his eyes. Do you ever stop talking? I try to throw out my Kishi influence. Sanjay, you're not thinking here. You're just afraid is all. It's you who's in your fear. The hell you need us for? To die like Pemba? Of course not. I push on my Abara some more. Sanjay halts in his stomp. Did it work? The older boy's mouth goes flat, almost slack. The surrounding sound seems to go dead quiet. Even the thunder has subsided. I know damn well you're not trying to soothe me. Is all I say before Sanjay leaps into the air, tearing into Kishi form. I shift in the same instant and we meet in midair in a clash of paw strikes and snapping bites. Our howls and grunts muted by the thunderclaps that play audience and applause to each strike and push. Neither of us is at our best, but we give it our all. I snap at his heels and he snaps at my neck, each fighting for balance in the mud. Then suddenly, I trip, and Sanjay's fangs are at my shoulders. I twist away and flesh rips with it. How had I tripped? I made sure not to fall in any of the pools of muck. Before I can see what disrupted my balance, I'm on my back again. This time, Sanjay's biting at my side. I throw my fist into his ears, using Uzoma's dual fighting methods, until Sanjay lets go. Bounding away, I look to the ground again. It's uneven and lumpy, sure, but there's nothing I could have tripped on, so what's happened? There's a rustling of plants to my right. From the stalks comes a tiny paw sweeping at my legs. I jump over it just in time. It's Kisama. I hadn't been stumbling over my own feet, but his. The little shit was playing dirty. My hyena head gives a low growl, and I pounce into the brush. My bite catches nothing but thorns and sap. I turn just in time to find both brothers lunging for me with their maws. Kisama on my leg and Sanjay back on my shoulder. I struggle against their weight, but it's no use. They have me pinned. I've lost. Once my body goes limp, they pull away, hovering over me like the hyenas they are. I don't got the strength to retreat. I'm not even sure I can stand at all. My Baba says we don't kill our own, Sanjay finally says. Though exhaustion and a bit of anger undercuts his voice, he sounds oddly sincere, still weak, even in victory. I know I've lost, but I can't help opening my mouth again. That's because your father was weak. It's why he's dead. Sanjay jumps on me again, his hyena head over my neck. I could kill you. He turns to his little brother, who looks anxious. But I know you're going to go to that village, and you're going to get yourself killed anyway. You're a fool then, I spit. I'd kill you if I were in your position. Sanjay draws his head closer to my neck. I'm ready for the final bite, but instead, I'm met with his soft pitch. I'm not you, Yemi. This war might have brought the worst from you, but I know what truly matters now. Alone Kishi is weak. The pack together is strong. We could have won this war if we knew that, if we wasn't fighting each other as much as we should have been fighting them. One day, I hope you get that. He lifts himself from my body, letting me breathe freely again. I try not to gasp for the air I sorely need. I may have lost, but I don't dare look defeated. Let's go, Kisama. Sanjay gestures to his brother, who I now see has a bloody maw. We need to be far away before day breaks. If Yemi goes back like he says he will, he could buy us some time. Kisama follows him without protest, blood dripping into the dirt from his mouth. It's only a short moment before they disappear into the crops. I look down at my leg where Kisama took his bite. It's a bloody mess, but not too deep. The little boy hadn't committed to the bite. I drag myself awkwardly to the river to wash my wounds. My calves tense once the water touches the open cuts. Clenching my jaw, I dip my body further in. As I lie here wincing in the water, I consider Sanjay's words. They were sweet sentiments for a fairy tale, but far from practical. Our kind is a violent one, held together by the will of our strongest brothers, not the weakness of the herd. Sanjay is right about one thing, however. Though I'm alone, wounded and without allies, I'll still go back to the village. But not yet. I'm not ready. I need to learn how to control the hyena if I'm ever going to gain the villagers' trust. There has to be a way to hide it for more than an hour. Uzoma must have been hiding his for years. I just don't know how I'll do it without the others' help. I drift off undecided, tucked away between a row of plants, falling to a deep and troubled sleep. Six. I wake with my nose in the dirt and someone's fingers in my hair. Rolling onto my back, I kick out instinctively, eyes still blurry from sleep. Get off of me! I shout at the figure above. You one of them Kishi who attacked last night? Comes a deep, guttural voice. My heart quickens. I should have walked further before giving in to my fatigue. My legs are still sprawled against the river's edge, one foot slumped over the bank. How long had the man been going through my hair? Without thought, I hide my hyena head, sinking it back into the recesses of my hair. I'm not no... whatever you just said, I say as I slap the man's hands from my head. He's silhouetted against the morning sun, painted by rolling clouds, though I make out his set of broad shoulders. Was he one of Uzoma's warrior gods from last night? A string full of what looks like hyena fangs drapes his neck. Many of the Bajoki warriors wore them as prizes. This man must have killed 6 Kishi if my count is right. He doesn't have a weapon with him, though. That's good. I just need to create some distance between us, then I can make a break for it. But my aching muscles argue otherwise. They feel as sore as they ever have, every cut and wound forcing my body into the dried mud with the weights of bagged rice. Then what's this? He overpowers me, turning my face into the dirt. He digs his hands back into my hair but finds nothing. At first, his hands work slowly, likely nervous of reaching into a wild dog's maw. But when he doesn't find what he's looking for, he starts pulling at my locks angrily. Ah! Stop! I cry in pain. I told you, I'm not one of them! Why your hair not cut? He asks when he finally releases my head. I didn't know it needed to be. I shuffle away from the man. I can see him full in the light now. His muscles seem to have muscles, and his jaw is as wide as the Nyoka. Scars cross his torso and arms, most of them cuts, others bites. At least some of my brothers fought well. What are you doing out here? The man asks, looking me up and down. I don't think it's appropriate to ask for his name, so I just call him Muscles. I try to lift myself to my feet, but my body will not have it. I need to come up with a story quickly. I had a plan yesterday, right? Right. I was attacked by a beast. I finally get out. The story sells better if I don't know the name. The less I know, the less I have to lie. It bit me all over. Looked like a wild dog, but it was huge. Muscles raises an eyebrow at me. Where are you from? Guela. I lie. You're a long way from home. The warrior trails, his tone a question. We was attacked by them beasts, like I said. I don't know why I'm talking like Sanjay, but I am. It sounds like how one of the Guela should speak. That's what he and Kisama sounded like to me, at least. They got my baba. He died so I could escape. Not entirely a lie. Muscles pushes his meaty hand into his chin, his forehead curled in thought. You're coming with me. It ain't safe out here alone. I scoot away in the dirt, fighting with my tender wounds. I don't know you. Don't matter. You'll still come. He scoots me up without effort, slinging me over his shoulder. My mud-caked body flakes over his back. I think on making a fuss. Maybe I should pound his chest, but if I'm really supposed to play the role of some scared human child, I should embrace the kind and open arms of a stranger. But with my extra weight, it'll take at least 2 hours to return to the village. I've never suppressed my head for so long. As soon as we get back, you'll need to get that haircut, he says as we pass along a farm of bean plants. I protest, adding Kasama's whining tone. But Baba says that'll kill the ancestors that live in my hair. Tradition don't matter anymore. As we approach the great village, it looks even more foreboding than before. The boys and I didn't take the main path to Bajok, instead keeping off trail. But as the village walls grow nearer, stakes dot the horizon line, each topped with small specks. Oh, Tulagi Allah, those dots are heads! It's not until we're a few paces away that I can smell them, rancid and ripe. Flies buzz around sunken cheeks and graying skin. As we pass each stake, the warrior shoos away vulture after vulture, but the moment the birds know we're out of reach, they return to continue their feast, battling over tongues and eyeballs. The foul stench fills my nose and crawls straight down into my stomach. If I had eaten anything in the past day, it would have come up on the warrior's back. Thankfully, most of the heads had decayed. I don't know if I could control myself if I had recognized one of the heads, if I had seen him. My heart races as a snout curls through my locks, my hyena straining to see his brothers, letting out a small cry. Muscles stops in his tracks. He lowers his back and looks through the brush next to him. What was that? I convulse, forcing my hyena back into my head. I ain't heard nothing. It's a long moment before the warrior rises from his crouch position. His hand hovers next to his waist, grabbing at nothing. Had he lost his weapon in the storm? Eventually, he walks forward again, this time at a slower pace, taking his time to listen for every squawk and trill along the plains. Every agonizing second this warrior takes to get to the village, the harder it is for me to suppress my hyena. He wants so bad to see his brothers again, to play with them, as he did with Baba's corpse. Just get to the damned village, I want to tell the large men. I hate that I have to rely on the magic's protection to save me, but it's the only way I'll survive. Another moment, and there's nothing I can do to stop it. Maybe if I only let him out for a little while, just for a little relief. I'd only need to stop his crying. I still have my hair after all, at least until we get to the village gates. Just as I let my hyena breathe new air, my eyes settle on the next Kishi had raised on a stake. It's Pemba's. His face hasn't rotted yet, That might have been better. Had it rotted, it wouldn't be able to stare straight at me with those wide and petrified eyes of his. A small pang of guilt cuts through me. I turn away, biting at my lip to repress the cry and howl that wants to escape from the back of my head. That was a mistake. Pemba's face is nothing compared to the head mounted across from his. Empty, gaping sockets pierce straight to my heart, and my head swims. The eyes are lost to the vultures still circling above. An impossible expression etches the face. Something between shock and pain sunken into itself like a caving candle. It's too much, but I can't look away. Baba. I hadn't seen his face when he died. I wish I never had. Tears stream down my face. For once, I just can't help but let them fall. Each drop rolls down the warrior's back, like a river cutting through a deep valley. Muscles turns to me. Sorry you had to see all this. It's for them, not for you. This time, it's my hyena that seems to console me as it nuzzles my hair. Every tear that drops gives way to another and another until I'm sobbing. What's that you got there? Another man's voice yells from across the path. Found this little one out in the farmlands. Muscles drops me gently to the ground as though he doesn't want to disturb my weeping. I still can't stand, so I slump to one side in the dirt, my tears pocketing the earth with mud. Through my watery vision, the second warrior guard tilts his head down at me. A big gap between the teeth in his wide jaw. What's wrong with him? He asks. He says he's from Guela, Muscle says. Kishi got to his family. Snot dots my nostrils as the warrior guards let me cry, giving me space to heave and cough. I've never cried like this before. I've wept and whined, but my father would never have allowed sobbing. It's like I've built a fountain of tears over the years, and they're all flowing free. Funny, I thought the act would make me feel weak, hollow, useless. But as I let out my last shuddering sob, I don't feel worse. I feel better. The way you feel after you throw up a bad meal. And what remains is a clarity I never thought I could achieve. My body is free of that crushing weight, the chains around my heart, the lock I feared would break open. I feel lighter. I touch the back of my head, rubbing my hand as the wet snout licks my palm. Slowly, my hyena head recedes into my skin once more, with no outcry or lashes at my hair. I don't even have to bite down on my tongue for the pain, the source of what I thought was my greatest power over my hyena. What's our greatest strength as Kishi? Baba's voice says to me again. Empathy, I reply. I hadn't mastered control over him because I lacked the truth of that one word. Empathy was not a one-way path. It was a split, fissured thing as diverse as the colors of the rainbow and as branching as the bough of a tree. I couldn't hold my hyena down because I did not truly understand him. How could I when all I showed it was anger and resentment? I played at odds to him when I should have listened, felt, accepted, ebbing and flowing in concert with him like the tracks of my tears. It's why I couldn't hold the women for long as well. I was dominating their will with my own. I should have been guiding them, not forcing them. To bind them fully would take knowing their hearts better than any could in one night alone. That's what it means to be a Kishi. Not our strong hides or our fangs, but our intimate knowledge of the soul and what feeds it, whether through pain, fear, joy, or even sadness. Suddenly, there's a hand on my shoulder. I turn to see Muscles looking down on me with somber eyes. I didn't even need my Abara to bring this one's guard down. My own emotion, my true sorrow, was already working plenty. I know it's rough, but we've won this thing, he says. No, you haven't. I gaze up at the village wall. This close, without my Kishi farm, it looks even taller than before. And it feels like every warrior with their sharp spears and trained bows at the ready is looking straight down at me. So, is the boy one of them or not? The man with the tooth gap says. I thought so at first, Muscle says, but I didn't see any snout. Toothgap sucks his teeth. He's got them golden eyes though, don't he? So does Uzoma. And so does your cousin, and they ain't Kishi. Toothgap flaps a dismissive hand. Yeah, but he's a cheetah shifter, ain't he? The man tilts his head down at me. You some shifter too? I shake my head, but I think of another lie. My mother was one though. There, Muscle says, as though that resolved it. Can I borrow that? He points to the dagger at the guarded side. Have at it, Toothgap says, handing over his weapon. I realize that I can have them cut my hair inside the village. Why aren't we going inside? Muscles frowns. It has to be done here. He cuts my first lock. We've got protection against them Kishi. He cuts a second. Even if we cut their hair inside, their hyena head don't show. I swallow hard, trying not to look at all the faces I recognize on the stakes, especially not his. My third lock is cut when I feel a familiar cracking at the back of my head. What's going on? I thought I had my second head under control. You found another one out there? Comes a gravelly voice from the other side of the gate. When I see the familiar face through the slits of the log gate, I understand why my hyena's blood is running hot. Uzoma stands tall, his eyes pushing past the warrior guards and straight at me. Why is he here? Had he sensed me as he had before? The men stand up straight, chests out in honor of their village's hero. Lucky me, another cut and Muscles would have seen a wet snout cresting from my skin. We're not sure, War Chief, Muscle says. I was just cutting his hair now. My hyena urges to push out of my head and attack. I tell it to settle down before it gets both of us killed. Uzoma lifts a finger and throws it left and right. Now, I'm not War Chief. You know that. Of course. My mistake, Uzoma. Muscle stands as still as a stone. Open the gate, Uzoma commands. Toothgap pushes the gates open without a second thought, his lax smile wiped for a warrior's restraint, his movement succinct. A nervous heat climbs my spine, rising to the edge of panic as Uzoma walks through. His eyes never leave mine, nor mine his. It's probably better if I stop staring. I knew I'd have to meet him again at some point. Now is not the time to lose my nerve like some whimpering pup. A low growl echoes through my mind. I don't dare lift my hands to stop it. It just gives me away. Quiet. I'll take over from here, Uzoma says suddenly, holding his hand out to Muscles. The warrior guard doesn't spare even a second before handing his dagger to the larger man. To think I had thought him large before. He looked like a child compared to Uzoma. Each time I had seen the traitor, it was in the dark or from afar. Now, full in the light of day, it made all the sense in the world that he could defeat Baba and the rest. I'm not sure how anyone could defeat him. Uzoma drops to one knee, gritting his teeth. A collection of dawa roots cover the wound at his side, held together by twine. It takes him a breath of a second to cut 3 of my locks. Where are you from, boy? His question sounds more like a demand. Gwela, I say, as 3 more locks drop into the dirt. My throat goes dry. I've stopped my hyena from growing past the tuft of hair, but any more and Uzoma will see. I can't blame my second head for his bloodlust. I feel it too. The traitor's only a finger's length from us. It would only take a second. One quick bite at his neck and... No. He's baiting me like he's been baiting all of us this whole time. That's what he wants me to do. He wants me to reveal myself. Gwela, you say? He continues cutting at my hair, already finished with the left side and moving to the right. So the rest of those filthy beasts are cowering to the north then? He puts a nasty emphasis on filthy beasts. I won't react. It will not work. I won't let it. I've just got to keep this damned snout under my hair. As Uzoma starts to cut at the front of my hair, he looks at me again. I have enough sense now to look away. But for a moment, he sits there, examining me as though daring me to look back. Do I know you, boy? My breath quickens. Uzoma isn't even attempting to hide that he's trying to influence me. How would I resist him without him knowing? My family says I look like my mother. It's not a lie. Baba always said I had her face in his eyes. Uzoma purses his lips. A chill crawls down my body. He doesn't believe me, does he? He keeps trying to force his influence into my mind, prying at my truth as though gutting a fish. I have to make him believe he's ensnared me, that he's in control. How do I do that while hiding my vengeful hyena at the same time?
Your eyes have been filled with nothing but malice since I arrived, boy,
he finally says as he lops off 5 more locks.
Why do you make such eyes at me?
I censor my expression, letting my pain be my foundation. My words come cold and true. You killed my father. Uzoma stops his cutting, a new light shining in his honeyed eyes.
Did I now?
You didn't even care, I spit in a fury.
How do you figure that, boy?
The dagger in his hand glints against the morning sun. I can almost hear its call, its sharp tongue ready to taste my neck. I measure my words carefully before I speak, looking Uzoma dead in the eye. You and your warriors care only for Bajok. You let my father die when the demons attacked.
Oh,
Uzoma says, letting out a small sigh.
Yes. I've been telling our war chief we should have continued our sweep to the north.
The strain in my neck finally subsides. The snout retracts into smooth skin once more. I'll never forgive you for what you did, I growl. You brought this war on us. We never asked for it. Uzoma looks back to the warrior guards, no semblance of agreement crossing their faces. The others, on the walls, have lowered their spears and bows, awaiting Uzoma's response.
You are right,
he tells me, looking for a name. I reply defiantly. Yemi.
Yemi?
He repeats.
I can do better. I will do better.
He turns to his comrades once more.
On Aya's next forest moon, we will help our brothers and sisters of the former Gola. This I promise you all.
He turns to me.
And to you, young one.
The energy among the warriors calms. A feeling of achievement rolls through me. I've accomplished all this with nothing but my words and eyes. No need for my abara at all. It only takes another moment for Uzoma to finish off the rest of my hair, all of it scattered in the dirt like a nest of serpents. I run my hand over my head. It's the first time I've felt the coarse stubble of short hairs along my dome. The air against my bare skin feels oddly satisfying.
All right then,
Muscles approaches us.
Let's get the boy to the medicine man. Them wounds will only get worse. Yes, yes. Let him see the shaman.
Uzoma waves for the warrior to take me away. Just as Muscles lifts me, a trail splits the morning sky. In the distance, an osprey glides from the blue straight down to the village gates. But it couldn't be any ordinary osprey. Its flight path's too direct. This has to be a shifter. A few strides away from us, the hawk transforms into a young woman. No, a girl. Only a few years older than me. Her hair looks almost like a nest, sticking out at odd angles, and her head swivels in an endless twitch.
They found them out by the Leopard's Gorge,
She says quickly, her voice pitched high.
2 boys with the heads of hyenas.
I swallow hard. She could only mean Sanjay and Kisama. Seven. I insist that I be taken to the village shaman, playing up the pain in my wounds. If Sanjay and Kisama see me, they'll rat me out, no question. Muscles agrees that I should be taken in. My hair was already cut after all. But Toothgap comes ambling about, his wry smile returning as he gives me a sidelong glance. How many of them boys you say attacked you last night? He asks Uzoma. The Kishi killer rubs his bare chin with the flat of his dagger in thought.
There were 3.
3, he says. Toothgap looks between me and the 2 small dots approaching over the farmland horizon. What looks like 4 warrior guards surround the tiny faint figures in the distance. I almost shout a retort that if there are 2 boys coming and 3 attacked, the third couldn't be me when Pemba's head hung dead on the stake. But Yemi from Guela wouldn't know any of that. All he knows is that he was attacked by 2 beasts who have plagued his humble village. In fact, his face shouldn't be shocked at all. If anything, Yemi from Guela should enjoy seeing whoever it was who attacked him. Change on my face comes too late for Toothgap, though. His eyes bore into me. He must know I have something to hide. "We'll call the medicine man once everything's figured out," he says. "A few more minutes ain't gonna make a difference." I bite the inside of my cheek. I want so bad to say his reasoning doesn't work. Hadn't Uzoma or Muscles realized his count was off? But the pair of them seem more intrigued with my reaction than Toothgap's words. And Muscles can't stop looking at the back of my head. With all their eyes on me, there's nothing I can do but put on the right mask and hope they don't start pointing fingers. I dig my nails into my hands to stop their fidgeting as we watch the group change from indistinct hazes to the detailed figures of people. Sanjay and Kisama are dragged by large men who lead them by ropes. 50 paces away, I can see their hair is half cut, mostly at the back, where their hyena head snaps at the air. I look up to Muscles at my side, trying my best to put on the voice of a frightened boy. "Them the boys who attacked me, ain't they?" I can't help but think I sound like Kisama. Muscles turns his eyes down to mine. He gives me a half shrug.
"It could be."
"Why ain't they dead?" I ask, moving behind Muscles' tree-trunk leg. To him, it may look as though I'm afraid of them, but it's really a way for me to hide my face from the boys. Perhaps they won't recognize me right away with my head shaped clean like this.
"That's a good question,"
he says to me, then turns to Uzoma.
"I thought we was ordered to kill them on sight."
Uzoma doesn't turn to answer. Maybe he's too preoccupied trying to identify the boys himself. But he answers offhandedly after a short while.
"Yes, that's true. But I ordered the others to bring him in alive. I have some questions for the cubs."
It's only another moments before the boys are brought before our small group. I look back up the village wall. The spearmen and the archers stand firm again, their weapons trained on the pair of Kishi boys. I'm only a few paces from Uzoma and the others. If anything goes wrong, I could make a run for it through the bean plants just next to the village wall. Uzoma wouldn't risk turning in front of so many humans, and I'd be fast enough to get across to Nyoka. A twitch in my muscles reminds me that won't happen. Without proper care, I won't be doing any running. I need to settle my nerves. I've gotten out of 2 close calls today already. What's one more? I step from behind Muscle's leg to see Sanjay and Kisama. Sanjay is bleeding from the mouth, lips swollen like he's been stung by a bee. Kisama's got a big welt over his eye, like a piece of fufu was stuck under his skin. Their chins slump against their chests. They avoid the eye contact I'm sure Uzoma is penetrating them with. Or perhaps they're averting their eyes from the heads on the stakes. Had they seen Pemba already? Part of me wants to smile at their misfortune. It serves them right to attack me and leave me alone out in the middle of nowhere. Yet the feeling of retribution never comes. Had it not been for Sanjay's words or Kisama's tears, I might have been dead already, uncovered as the Kishi who couldn't hide his head. I owe them something, don't I? I drive out the thought as soon as it comes. I didn't come all this way to sacrifice myself for them. Uzoma leans down to the boys, dropping his head to their downcast faces. He holds his dagger in a loose and casual grip, as though baiting the boys to go for it like he had with me.
"I don't want to spend too much time with questions, so I'll make it quick. Are there more of you out there?"
The man bobs his head from boy to boy, his voice almost too matter-of-fact, callous.
"If you do not tell me, I'll stake you alive. Simple as that."
Sanjay's face is fixed with stone. I'm not sure he's even moved since he was thrown to the ground. Even his hyena head has stopped its biting. Uzoma isn't going to get anything out of him. Kisama, on the other hand, is the opposite of his brother. His chest convulses, heaving up and down like a cheetah after a chase with a gazelle.
"Hey!"
Uzoma slaps Kisama across the face, releasing tears held back from the boy.
"You don't have any right to cry right now. You attacked me. You better own to that."
I never attacked you, Kisama stammers, each word harder to get out than the last. Uzoma slaps him again.
Don't lie to me, beast!
I ain't, Kisama cries, nursing his reddening eye with his bound hands. Kisama's plea tugs at my heart as an uncomfortable knot expands in my throat. The little boy doesn't deserve this. But it's better him than me, right? Somehow the thought doesn't make me feel any better. There was... Kisama utters.
What? There was what?
Uzoma bellows. Another boy! Fear slices through me. He is going to betray me. So they had seen me, hadn't they? My previous sorrow for them falls away instantly. I can play that game too. They attacked me! I point from behind Muscle's leg. Them boys attacked me last night! Sanjay and Kisama look up to me in unison, their mouths agape. A new light sparks in their golden eyes as they recognize me. So they hadn't seen me. Kisama was talking about Pemba. I swallow hard at my mistake, but I have to own up to it. In an instant, their miserable faces turn hot with anger as they shout down my accusation. I scream back all the same, and we enter a battle of who can raise their voices higher than the others. The warriors hold them back as they try to come at me.
Silence!
Uzoma's booming voice cuts through our argument, making our voices sound like thin cries next to his growl, the kind you feel in your chest like a lion's roar. Once we've shut our mouths, he continues.
I'll listen to what each of you has to say. But if any one of you talks out of turn, I'll kill you straight away. Got it?
Our silence is all the answer he needs.
You can't believe them, Uzoma,
Muscle says.
We cut the boy's hair. He ain't no Kishi.
Toothgap grabs at my shoulder, making me grimace.
What about these bites? He ain't no Kishi now, but come Aya's next.
That's not how it works, you fool. Just as I catch myself from saying the thought out loud, Uzoma twists on his heel and faces the warrior guards.
Who told you that crap? The beasts don't turn humans through bites. You know that's Awa.
So that's Toothgap's name.
Were it true, you and the others would have turned moons ago.
That's 'cause we got fixed up right away, he's quick to say. This boy's had his wounds for hours. Uzoma's glare halts whatever Toothgap's about to say. When he's satisfied with the warrior's silence, he turns to me.
Let's hear from you first. What's your telling of it?
My gaze shifts from Uzoma to the boys. Fury and betrayal fill their eyes. Sanjay with his scowl, and Kisama with his doe eyes. It happened like I said, I start. I was running from Guela when they saw me. They attacked me next to the river.
And why didn't they kill you then?
Toothgap asks. Muscles seems to be pondering the same thing. The other warriors holding the boys await my response with bated breaths. I swear I see a shadow of a smirk on Sanjay's bloody lips. He knows I don't have a good response to the question. I bite at my lip before I come up with my story. Part of me wants to say, I don't know, why don't you ask them? But that's the wrong play here. I can't give them control of the story. So instead I say, I think I caught them off guard. They wasn't interested in me. Looked like they was running away from something. But when I fought back, they just kept running. I heard them talking about some name. I act like I've forgotten.
What? What name?
Muscles asks down to me. The little one was crying about a boy named Pemba.
You heard all of this while they was attacking you?
Toothgap asks, unconvinced. Uzoma puts a hand up.
Let him finish.
They said something about meeting other Kishi at some jungle, I say, feigning as though I'm looking for my words. Kisama's lips twitch like he wants to say something. Venom fills Sanjay's eyes. It's the last marble I have to play in this game. If the humans are going to trust me, I have to give them something besides my story. It might take a while for them to prove my story, but if Sanjay and the others are telling the truth, the humans will find more Kishi to the north, like they said yesterday.
Kunda?
Muscles asks. His head shifts to Uzoma. You see? They're gathering again. Uzoma considers my words as Kisama shouts. He's a lie! He's hiding a hyena behind his... A bright light, like a shooting star in the day, streaks across Kisama's neck. It takes me a moment to realize Uzoma's just slashed him with his dagger. A thin line parts Kisama's throat. Then a flood of crimson comes trickling down. The tiny boy grabs at his neck with his bound hands, but it's no use as the blood spills through his fingers freely. like a wine-colored waterfall through rocks. Sanjay's scream echoes across the plain as he kicks at Uzoma. He misses, pulled back by the two warriors holding him with the rope. It doesn't matter to Sanjay. He keeps the thrashing, his rage unbottled. He's howling, but his words don't make sense, like he's speaking in a different tongue, one mixed with the bark of his hyena. My mouth parts in shock as I watch Kisama wither on the ground, life draining from his little body. Even the warriors are stunned in their speechless faces.
Shut that one up,
Uzoma orders, pointing to Sanjay. The warriors take more rope and wrap both of Sanjay's mouths, human and hyena alike. No one else dares to speak as Kisama gurgles for his last breaths, and Sanjay cries through his gag. I can hear my heart in my ears, pounding like rolling thunder. Is it all happened so fast? Kisama was talking at one moment and then... the blood. So much blood. Uzoma wasn't playing games with any of us. I'd have to choose my next words carefully or I'd be next. Once Kisama stops moving, Muscles is the first to break the silence.
Like I said, Uzoma, you checked the boy. He's clean.
Uzoma's eyes bore into me again. He and I both know that a hyena head can be hidden. But he doesn't know that I can do what he can. Is that what his deep expression is considering now? A cold sweat sprouts from the back of my neck. The man stares at me for what feels like an eternity when he finally says, almost too cheerfully,
Well, don't stop. You were telling us your story.
It takes me a few starts, but I tell him the rest, though the remainder is all true. I tell him I was left by the river, found by Muscles and brought to the village, where Uzoma found me. My voice quivers as I speak. The pit in my stomach feels like it has no bottom. My eyes never leave Kasama's as I finish my story. I don't dare look at Sanjay. I can only imagine the curse his eyes have for me.
Show me the back of that one's head,
Uzoma commands. The warriors twist Sanjay around to show his hyena, who's already chewing through the rope. Uzoma looks to me.
Boy, Yemi, this is the one who attacked you, right?
I finally turn my gaze to Sanjay. To my surprise, his eyes don't have any malice. The fire that was there before has seemed to cool, like he knows how this will all end for him. Yes, I reply.
Did you find any more of them out north?
Uzoma asks one of the warriors.
We did,
the warrior closest to Sanjay says.
Right next to the southern edges of Kunda. All of them cubs. We didn't go after them because you said...
Uzoma lifts his hand once more.
We'll deal with all that at another time, as I've told everyone else.
So, what's that mean? Toothgap crosses his arms.
It means our boy Yemi here is telling the truth as far as we can tell,
Uzoma says.
Neddy, can I ask you to take another trip north for us?
I almost forget that the shifter had bared witness to everything. She gives Uzoma a quick nod and flies off back into the blue sky. It looks like more storm clouds are coming in the distance. Toothgap goes to Kasama's side, putting a hand to his chest, I guess to make sure he's gone. Once the warrior guard is satisfied with his examination, he raises his head to Uzoma.
But there were 3 boys who attacked you, you said.
He points between Kisama and Sanjay, and then he settles his eyes on me.
I know what you're suggesting, Awa,
Uzoma says.
And you're right. There were 3 who attacked me last night. The one at your feet now, the one here who's roped up, and...
Uzoma points to Pemba's head on its stake. Toothgap takes in a deep sigh and snaps his fingers.
Right. I forgot about that one.
Shoulder slumped, he turns his attention to me.
Sorry, kid. I'll go get that shaman for you.
He lifts himself and goes to open the gate to the village. Once he closes it behind him, Uzoma approaches me with a dagger in his hand. The hilt is pointed toward me.
Before I let you in,
he says,
I'd be rude not to let you take your revenge.
His wide smile makes me uncomfortable. I look between his eyes, the dagger, and Sanjay. I shudder to think what he's asking of me. I can't kill Sanjay. Not after what happened to his brother. Like always, it seems, this is another test of Uzoma's. Hand quivering, I take the blade from Uzoma's hand. How hard would it be for me to turn the dagger and run Uzoma through with it? I could just lift it and slash it across his neck like he did with Kisama. But that would be impossible if I couldn't stop the trembling in my fingers. The traitor would know what I'll try to do even before I make the move. With a slow pivot, I turn the blade to Sanjay. I just can't seem to get my feet to move over to him. What am I so afraid of? This is what I wanted, isn't it? This is what had to happen. I couldn't just let Sanjay walk around telling everyone my secret. By now he must understand that I can hide my hyena. And if he lets that be known, then Uzoma would have my head on a stake next to his. Despite the reasoning, it doesn't help my shaking hand or my stiff legs.
Don't be afraid of him, boy,
Uzoma says.
He won't hurt you anymore.
I breathe in deep through my nose as I take a slow shuffle to Sanjay, who's fallen in the dirt. As I stand over him, his eyes seem hollow, like he's in another place, far from here. I flinch when his gaze suddenly shifts to me. Though the boy doesn't say a word, his stare says so much. Maybe in a different scenario, a different time, we could have been partners, working together. If only I wasn't so foolish and selfish. None of them had to die. But nothing can be done for it now. It's either him or both of us. As we stare at each other for the last time, I consider the whole of the situation. I alone am responsible for these boys' deaths, and I didn't lift a finger for any but one. I curl my head over my shoulder and look to Uzoma. He's giving me an encouraging nod, his brow furrowed. That's what I'd have to do with Uzoma. Earn his trust. Wait for the right opportunity and strike, using others to do it for me as a sort of shield between him and me. I might not be able to work with Sanjay or the others, but I could rebuild again in the shadows. It will take time, but eventually, I'll have a loyal clan of Kishi who can help me take hold of Bajok and bring Uzoma down. But for now, I swipe the dagger across Sanjay's throat. Like his brother, he gurgles, reaches for his neck, and fights for his life until no more life flows through him. Thank you, Sanjay. I'll never forget what you showed me. Uzoma takes the dagger from my trembling fingers and wipes it on Sanjay's loincloth.
You did well, Yemi,
he says. I look up to him, into his confident smirk, his despicable golden eyes. Little does he know, he'll get what's coming to him.
A note from the author. Thank you for reading my debut novella. There were many characters in the Kishi that I didn't get to explore, one of them being Yemi. Writing him in the final chapters of the Kishi after his reveal was a lot of fun, so I wanted to dig deeper into his childhood and see how he survived the war with the humans. If you enjoyed Last of My Kind, please leave a review on one of your favorite book websites, whether that's Amazon, Goodreads, Apple Books, or elsewhere. And don't be shy. If you want to contact me on my website, it's very easy. Just go to AntoineBandele.com/stay-in-touch.
Bandele Books presents Last of My Kind, Book 1 of the Lost Tales from Esowon series. Written by Antoine Bandele. Read for you by VonDexter Montegut II and Nakia Renee. We hope you've enjoyed this unabridged production of Last of My Kind, Book 1 of the Lost Tales from Esowon series by Antoine Bandele. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod and Incompetech.com under Creative Commons license. For more tales from Esowon, visit AntoineBandele.com for more information. This has been a Bandele Books presentation. All rights reserved, 2019. The end.